Remember that the Uganda we want has to work for all. So we need to share justice, we need to share prosperity, we need to share a national renewal and a country that works for every Ugandan. My name is Yvonne Mpambara. I am a social justice lawyer and a social worker. I am the founder for Foundation for Female Presidential Aspirants, an organization that skills and resources young women to run for the top leadership seats in their countries. This is a continental organization, works across the continent. I am an equitable philanthropist as well, and I've done a lot of work to push women and youth inclusion in both leadership and other aspects of life. I come from Kabale, that is where I was raised, but I was born in Kanungu. I was born in Kanungu district, then raised in Kabale district, and later for secondary school, when I was shifting to secondary school, is when I came to Kampala. So again, I'm not a Kampala born, but I was born in Kanungu, then Kabale, where I attended primary school, Kabale Preparatory School, famously known as KPS, in Kabale. Then I went to secondary school at Mount St. Mary's College, Namagunga, that is based in Lugazi. I pursued a law degree from Makerere University, that is based in Kampala. I'm a presidential contender, committed to national reform and transformation, to justice and prosperity for all. I am the bridge between Uganda's possible potential and its resilience. Standing for presidency right now means that I'm ready for political aspirations. I pushed my ambition forward to show that women are ready to lead, especially women that are younger ages. It shows that I'm willing to account Uganda's electorate at my age, and I'm willing to represent young women in this race. It means also that we are ready for democracy, the inclusion of democracy at its core, the diversity, the democratic voices that women represent, we're ready to push them out there. For the political space, this is a credible step for the number of contenders that are running in the race. I feel like I've joined the broad aspect of the contenders that are running for the presidential race, but also it means that it's a call. There's been large calls for gender parity in leadership. And now we are seeing a democratic diversity where women are stepping forward to step into democratic spaces. It means that we are now heeding to the call for gender parity, and I feel that if the country lets this happen, it lets more young voices of women represent the top seat. It will show how mature the democratic space has become in Uganda's political history. Expectations on this journey. First of all, it's a very tough journey. But I don't want to scare young women from participating. I don't want to scare young people. My expectations are Ugandans will see the credible voices of young women. They'll see the credible voices of young people. That we are not just the usual, majority of Ugandans feel that young people are jokers. We are well articulated. We know the issues that affect Uganda. We know the issues that affect us. We know how to handle these issues. We have solutions. So we are stepping forward to show you that we have solutions for this country, as well as the grown folk. I'm going to call them the grown folk. We have the solutions for this country as much as any other population. Uganda is ready for a female president. Uganda on the continent has been among the first countries to push affirmative action policies. It has done extraordinary work in terms of pushing policies that push for affirmative action. In terms of leadership, we have normalized voices in leadership. We have the likes of Winnie Byanyima, we've had the likes of Kazibwe, we've had the likes of Matembe, we've had the likes of Kadaga. There are so many women that have set the pace for political leadership, right? But we feel that the space remains largely male-dominated. And that is the issue. It remains largely male-dominated, it's militarized, and it remains a space that is considered a strong manhold. I know you understand what I mean when I say strong manhold. They associated with, political leadership is associated with strong men, right? And strong men in terms of so many aspects, usually for majority of Ugandans, means a military man. So we are trying to decentralize that, we are trying to undo it, we are trying to, diversify Uganda's understanding of what leadership should be. And we feel we are ready if there are so many reforms that can be put in place to make sure that women can ably run, to make sure that young people, especially young women, are able to also stand on a podium and tell you, I am running for president, and they have solutions for this country and they can move forward. One, we need reforms in the political party structures. I'm going to begin by talking about political party structures because there are so many young women and so many young people that are infiltrating the systems so that they are able to run this country. Political party structures cannot use women as just, women that are part of an organization or part of a movement. They have to be at the forefront of running most of these structures. They have to be at the forefront of decision making. So if we see them making decisions, if we see they are safe in the spaces where they are making these decisions and they are put to the forefront, we feel that in terms of representation, that is a thing that can be achieved. And if it's achieved from there, we feel more women will be able to step forward and run for presidency. Secondly, there have to be reforms in both the legal and the electoral processes. The electoral processes have so many incumbencies that still hinder young women from participating, that still hinder young people from participating in politics. The high nomination fees, very many structural barriers. The high nomination fees, how will a young woman who is even coming from a marginalized background be able to afford 20 million for nomination fees? That's a very high fee. They do not have resources. We know that majority of them are the least paid. So how will they afford to be able to be part of these processes if they are not incentivized to be able to run? But also the violence that is associated with politics. A lot of women, especially young women, look at what happens to several women who run, and they decide for themselves that that's not a space they want to be associated with. Politics is associated with risk, and it's supposed to be the other way around. Politics is supposed to be a ray of hope for so many people. But it has been associated with risk because it has become extremely violent. Women enter those spaces, they are threatened, they are intimidated, smear campaigns, someone would threaten you that they are going to leak nudes. It should not be happening. They should be feeling very safe to run. And for them to feel safe to run, there have to be policies in place and laws that are protecting them against such things. Largely, they also need resources. Empowerment in terms of economic resources is very important because without resources, without them being resourced, it's very hard for them to run and ably compete. Without resources, so many marginalized voices who mostly contribute, young people and women, are put on the sidelines. They can't meaningfully contribute because they do not have the resources that are associated with most of these processes. So they need to be incentivized again, given grants, given resources where they can, access to land. They need to be able to make money so they are also able to participate in majority of these processes. If we have resources as women, I am very sure, because you can see now the nature of politics in this country. It requires money. It requires billions of money that most of us don't have. Most of us are running on courage, but if we had money, we are capable of winning this country, even for years to come. So they need the resources. Largely the political violence, it has to come to a standstill. It has to come to an end. You can't continue threatening people when they are attempting to run, when they have a strong voice against certain issues. You cannot threaten them, you can't torture, we have to end political violence for women, especially young women, to meaningfully participate. Digital spaces are extremely unsafe. So for us to make them safe, we have to make sure that women can ably participate. So the misogyny, the digital gender-based violence, it has to end for women to be able to actively participate. The tokenism also in the political space, and this is also largely all the way from political party systems to other forms of governance, have to end. The patronage, it has to end so that women can meaningfully participate. But also there's so much cultural and mindset change that has to happen in order for women to be able to meaningfully participate in all aspects of political leadership and governance. The foundation for female presidential aspirants largely skills young women to ably run. That's the first thing we do. We know that one of the issues we also face is we have no clue how to handle power, how to run a political office. So the first thing it does is skill. We know that the role of civic education and political education is very important because you're able to learn accountability, what transparency looks like, what the power game is. So the first thing we do for majority of young women is skill them through what that power dynamic looks like. How do you lead a country? How do you run? How do you handle foreign policy? How do you handle domestic issues? How do you deal with people? How do you relate with ABCD? How do you fundraise money? How do you build movements all the way from grassroots until the national level, until global level? How do you do it? Majority of the questions are around the how. If I'm running for president, how do I run for president? Do I just wake up one day and say I'm running? what are those skills that are required. So one, we skill them. Two, on top of skilling, we resource. The foundation is largely a grant-making body to young people that are intending to run. So we resource them. We make sure that the minute you have the ambition to run, we find a way to do the economic empowerment of the work that is necessary. At least we meet you halfway and we give you those resources for you to be able to run. Just that we connect you to very huge networks, not just in the country, not just nationally. We connect you to global networks. We connect you to continental networks that are able to train, that are able to skill you, they are able to put you up there where you understand how to relate with diplomats, how to relate with other presidents, how to relate with other ambitious young women, how to relate with so many other people that can influence your spheres of life. So it largely skills, it largely trains, it largely teaches, it largely builds those networks for young women, but it also largely resources. So the foundation for female presidential aspirants is largely a movement. We are a movement of young women, right? The way we participate and look for young women is through majority of the communities, majority of the other movements we already know, majority of the communities that young people are part of. So what we do is we usually put out calls for people to recommend young people that should be young women that they feel are ambitious enough to push through the space. But also if you feel you're ambitious enough, there's a small process we have where we interview you, we sit with you, you take us through processes, we start pulling out and nurturing that potential until we feel we can push you into the foundation and you start entering the system now to get slowly structured into how you can start pushing your own voice, become confident, become a good speaker, start, understanding how to play certain dynamics, how to understand relationships. So majority of it is usually a call, but the call goes through networks, it goes through communities, but also it goes through to individuals. For the individuals, sometimes we usually vet a bit, but we usually mostly look for that potential. We look for it ourselves. The main issues I've mostly observed on this political journey so far: digital misogyny, online violence. The era has become largely digitalized. So that means there are so many ways that women are being harmed that we had not yet even foreseen before. These are artificial intelligence procured images, visuals, where someone goes and does a video of you. It's not you, but they look so real that someone can think it's you. People leaking people's private pictures, someone smear campaigning you, the information is not true, but someone is sending out information they know is likely going to cause you harm. There's so much online violence that we feel we need to be able to respond to before majority of women and those that have already entered the space can be protected. And we feel that we have to speak on it because Uganda for now largely does not have a framework to protect candidates, especially around artificial intelligence. We don't have a framework for that yet to control the nature of the images being put out. But I know there are other laws that we can use to protect them as well. So there's largely so much digital misogyny. They're always embarrassing women online. They're discrediting them. They discredit their legitimacy because they question their morals. How are you dressed? Instead of basing on ideas, they just concentrate on appearance. That's a lot of digital misogyny, but also online violence. There's also a lot of political violence. Women have not been exempted from it. They are tortured. There are so many young women already in jails. They are worried. They are worried about how they'll come out. There are those who are worried that, if they say a dissenting thing or a dissenting idea, they are going to be imprisoned or they are going to be tortured. They will call you and also tell you that, are you ready to learn Runyankole in a basement? There's no one who wants to hear things like that. That's intimidation. It is violent, and I don't think women deserve that. And then other gender issues are around, I talked about tokenism. We feel that women are used as pawns in the political game, but they're not given decision-making power. You see them in so many structures. I don't want to mention political parties. There's so many young women in political parties, but the majority of them, how many have you seen to come out and say they are heading a political party? So that means they're not the ones that are making the decisions, that are pulling the ropes. We need to be able to see women in those political structures, but also access to finances. It's such a huge gender issue. It's also affecting me. I don't have the money to run this campaign very well, but I keep pushing, knowing that I'm going to work with the public to be able to push a voice that actually matters. So majority of women do not get the financing to be able to run. Reason why? It's mostly men that are financed. Because they are safer bet for so many funders and so many political systems, they would rather bet on a man who they know is likely to win than a woman, because they feel it's a safer bet for them than if they injected that money into a woman. So they face so many financial barriers because everyone who is funding a campaign would rather place a safe bet on a man than a woman. But also the media. The media concentrates on such unimportant things when it comes to women leaders. You're concentrating on how they are dressed, on how they look, on how they are appearing, how they are holding themselves. These are things that never concentrate on a man. Men will run the way they want, they will say whatever they want, and they will seem as if they are credible. But a woman, they calculate your every move like your life depends on it. They concentrate on things that should not be mattering, and yet there's so many ideas that women have. There's a way of articulation they have that these people that majority of the public would concentrate on, that the media could concentrate on, so they push the voices of women. Online violence is a rampant threat. It's rampant right now. It's a threat to women's democratic participation. It hinders democratic involvement of everyone, because democracy is supposed to work for all, right? It hinders women from participating. If I'm seeing someone being smear campaigned, being disrespected, whose images, whose naked pictures are being put on the internet to shame them so that they can't run, what do you think is going to happen to me? I'll start fearing also to run the next time, not so. Even someone already intending to run will think about it and say, no, I don't think this is a time for me to be able to run. So one, it silences key voices. It silences key voices. Women who are running start self-censoring themselves. They feel intimidated. They feel scared. They start worrying for their families. Majority of these women are the ones running families. They start worrying about their safety. But also it affects their mental health. The way these things are being done online, the violence online, affects women's mental health. You're worried about how people are now perceiving you. Your naked pictures are out there. You're putting out a fake smear campaign about someone. How do you think they're feeling mentally? They'll start feeling desperate, anxious, depressed. It's not a safe mental place for them. Thirdly, it pulls down their legitimacy. They are legitimate, they are credible. Women have strong voices. Young women can speak. Young people can speak. But when you start concentrating on things like morals, because that's what online violence does. It starts concentrating on your morals. They look at you, you are dressed like this, you are naked. So they start concentrating on issues that don't matter, and all the ideas that you have for the country are slowly delegitimized because they've pulled down your credibility and reduced it to morals and other small things that actually should not be mattering. So it cuts down your legitimacy, but also, they start feeling unsafe for their families. They start feeling unsafe. For most of it, it also translates majority to physical violence. There are women at times that are physically assaulted. Some are worried about rape because they are being objectified online. Others are worried about, their families. What if their families are assaulted? What if they are kidnapped? It becomes a very big issue when online violence continues to thrive, not realizing how much it can affect the democratic space we are in. The fact that now it will actually start curbing down on the level of democracy we have in the country, because women can't ably participate and put their voices out there if they are worried and scared of the nature of the violence that they're going to face in spaces where they're supposed to be feeling safe. There are a couple of laws that can protect women online that are running, women that are aspirants, women that are candidates, no matter the different levels. We have the first one that is largely out there, is a Computer Misuse Act. There's an amendment of, 2023. It can be used to get reduce in case someone has been affected by online violence, because it has sections in there that you can directly invoke and take to court and hold someone liable for either putting images of you out there or using information against you that you didn't want out there, information that you do not want other people to know. You can use a Computer Misuse Act, especially since majority of these issues are online. It's something that someone can directly use and cater to be able to get some solutions. I also know that you can invoke the Penal Code and the Anti-Pornographic Act. That they are not direct acts in terms of online violence. They don't directly talk about digital violence, but they have sections that you can invoke that discuss violence in its nature. So you can invoke them still and hold someone liable and accountable and take them to courts of law, or hold them accountable to compensate you in case they've released information, or in case they've released certain images of you that you do not want out there, images of you that harass, that bully, that smear you. You can also invoke the Penal Code and Anti-Pornography Act. We also have the Data Protection and Privacy Act that you can invoke as well to hold people liable if they, say, for example, publish personal information about you that you didn't want out there, say your location, certain information about you that is not meant for the public. If it's leaked, maybe where you stay, or who your children are, who your family members are, and you know that this is information that you didn't want online, or someone is using it to smear you and harass you, you can invoke that act to be able to get some redress. So we also have the Uganda Communications Act of 2013, I believe it's 2013, where the Uganda Communications Commission has the mandate to either pull down content that is harmful or hold people that are putting out harmful content accountable by holding investigations, but also demanding that they pull down either harmful behavior or harmful posts that are likely to harm candidates. So you can also invoke it. You can invoke the commission to be able to do an investigation to pull down any kind of content that is harmful. But also we have so many NGOs. We have so many civil society actors that are doing a lot of legal work that is pro bono in nature, that is affordable, that you can be able to invoke and go to for them to be able to give you some solutions if in case you've faced online violence. We have the Women Pro Bono Initiative, one of my favorites. We have FIDA, we have the Uganda Human Rights Commission is mandated to do that as well. We have so many organizations, we have so much civil society that is out there that is capable of doing work in terms of keeping you safe online, and also making sure that content that is put out there once you're running that is meant to smear you or harass you or intimidate you from running is able to be held accountable and or taken down. Women must be able to document online violence. For you to be able to take your cases to police, for police to be able to open files in terms of how you've faced online violence, you have to document all of it that is happening. Take screenshots, record, take names of these people, write them down, get as much information as possible, document, and report. Can make the political space more inclusive. One, largely, the first and foremost, legal and electoral reforms. We have to remove structural barriers that hinder them from participating to begin with. If you don't remove those nomination fees, there's no one going to come forward because they don't have that money. If you don't remove all these small things that hinder them from running, they're not going to be able to run. They're not going to be able to contest. So first and foremost, we need legal reform that is centered around ending violence, that is centered around ending structural barriers in terms of fees, in terms of incumbencies that come with, nomination fees in general. All these other issues and criteria that is put in place for people to run. When they put, say, your dignity as a criteria for someone to run, and yet you know that if someone puts out a smear campaign online, they've literally affected you. We have to be able to end most of those structural barriers that are gendered. We have to be able to end most of those structural barriers that are classist. We have to end them. But also you have to put laws in place that curb gender-based violence, that end violence, political violence against women. If you're not putting in place policies that end violence online, for example, anyone who releases an artificial picture of me or any nude pictures of me that I shared with my ex who now doesn't like me, he's going to release them online. And what's going to happen next? It reduces my credibility to run, right? So you have to put policies in place and electoral reforms in place that say the criteria for someone to run is based on this, but also once you run, you're protected. You're protected to run and ably compete and ably contest. Secondly, we have to end tokenism in most of these spaces. Alongside tokenism, the patronage that comes with majority of the structures, not just political, not just in political parties, but in governance in general. When patronage is used as a coin for who the next leader is, majority of these other marginalized groups are going to be sidelined because you've already raised certain people to take on from you. You've already put a line for others to cross to be the ones to be able to get into politics, to be able to be leaders. And then there are these people who don't have the privilege of being in these spaces to become the future leaders of this country. So tokenism, one, we need to stop using young people and women especially as pawns in the political game. They should be decision makers. There should be a merit-based system, even in political parties, that puts these people at the forefront of leadership. You should run because you have the potential and ability to run. You have the ambition, you have the confidence, you have the skill to be able to run. It should not be based on anything else, right? Gender-based tokenism, it has to end because women have it should be able to have decision-making power in order for them to be good leaders as well. Thirdly, we need to resource. Economic empowerment is very important. If people do not have resources, they can't run. We need to incentivize young people to be able to run. We need to skill, we need business trainings, we need to teach young women especially and young people to learn how to make money. We need to incentivize them with grants to be able to run, finance them to run and make good of their leadership, make good of their ambition, make good of their leadership skills. Teach them, train them, business orient them, incentivize, give some small grants. All of it is important. Civic education, very important, because without us understanding what civic and political education can do, we are not able to put able leadership out there. We're not able to put young people out there that can ably represent themselves because they also don't know the aspects upon which they are running. They don't understand how the political spaces work. They don't understand how power dynamics work. They need to be able to understand all this. They need to be able to understand the role of accountability, transparency, justice in these systems in terms of governance. They need to be able to understand them in order for them to know the reasons why they are running. Your voice, have a very clear vision and clarity for the reason why you're running. You need to have a very strong message. Have a very strong message for why you're running. Make it credible. Insist on what your message is. Have a very clear vision. Be clear. Be confident. No matter how much you're fumbling, be very confident about your message because it's important. You understand the issues that Ugandans are facing. You understand issues that young people are facing. You understand issues that majority of women are facing. You need a very clear message. Secondly, be a leader of integrity. We are tired of thieves. We are tired of these people meandering with us. They are playing political gimmicks. You hear they are disturbing your head because they are trying to play political games. Be a leader of integrity. A leader of integrity, people will remember you for your courage, for standing hard for the truth. People will remember you for that than you compromising yourself for something that doesn't make sense. People are going to remember you for siding with abusers. People are going to remember you for siding with people that are torturing their loved ones. But if you stand hard firm on what you believe is integral, on what is the truth, people are going to remember you for your courage. Lastly, take good care of yourselves. Politics is very isolating. It's a very isolating game. I've reached there. I'm seeing what's happening. I had a bunch of people around me, but the minute majority of people see that level of ambition in you, they put you on a certain pedestal that they can't help, but also you can't help it. So you're put on a pedestal, you're isolated. Majority of this violence also isolates you. There are people who no longer want to be in touch with you. You're constantly busy. You need to take care of yourself. Take off mental health checks, take off some time to rest, go out with your teams, have a good time, drink a bit, laugh, take off some space to be you, to be yourself, to remember that you're also an individual and a person outside the political game. But above all, do not be scared of power. Power runs everything. Without power, women can't lead. And that is one thing that has held us back, and it's what men keep taking. Men are very selfish with power. Older people are very selfish with power. They will never be scared of it. When they tell you can be the next president of Uganda, please start preparing your ambition to run. Understand how the game works, understand how politics works, understand how to make money. Above all, do not be afraid of power because when you fear it, the people who represent you will continue to look outside who you believe should be a representative for yourself. So do not be scared of power. Ugandans, this is a generational election. Young people are the majority of the voting bloc. You have the mandate to push what the future of this leadership looks like. Numbers matter. Voter apathy is very dangerous for this country and its democracy. It's very dangerous for our governance. We have to push out there and push leaders that we want into place. Secondly, that the Uganda we want has to work for all. So we need to share justice, we need to share prosperity, we need to share a national renewal and a country that works for every Ugandan.